Well, good morning. Let's get started here. Today's going to be a little different than what you've experienced the last couple of Sundays. The overarching task or goal or charge from Jesus or others for every committed Christian is to share the gospel, to share the good news, and to share with others, especially those who haven't heard it or are not experiencing the joy of having Christ in their life. And we do this, it's very simple, we do it by joining Jesus on his mission. And you've heard about this now for 2+ years. I think we started it 2 summers ago, or maybe 3 summers ago, we did that. And we join Jesus on his mission, and Jesus is very clear on what his mission is. John 6:38 and 40, Jesus says, "For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. For this is the will of my Father, that is, the one who sent him. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day." That's Jesus' mission, is to raise up everybody that believes in him on the last day to do the Father's will, and that's what he wants us to do. And we can come alongside Jesus on this very wonderful mission thing that he has. The downside to this is because of our sinful nature, we're not inclined to do this naturally. Because of our sinful nature, we want to do things other than join Jesus on his mission. Or we want to join Jesus on his mission, but we want to tell him what his mission is and how he needs to do it, instead of him telling us how to do it. So to share the good news, we need some help in order for us to do that, in order to come alongside Jesus. And we can get this help from a lot of different places, but today we're looking at 3. We're looking at the Bible, we're looking at prayer, and we're looking at others. Okay, others as in other people around us. So today we're going to pause looking at Power to Change, the video series that we've been looking at. We're going to pause on that one. And maybe we're going to actually tie it into joining Jesus on his mission, but we're going to do a refresh on missional communities. Just kind of explaining missional communities again and seeing what goes on with that. I hope you all saw the email that Chad sent out. He kind of introduced us on an email. It was really kind of pretty, actually. And it had the scriptures that we'll be using today. It's going to be Revelation 14 and 2 Timothy 4, the very same scriptures we're using in the confirmation service this morning. So those are the scriptures we're going to do. And believe me, you're not going to listen to me talk for the next 45 minutes. I promise to be done here pretty quick, and then my bride is going to take over. Not being trained in public speaking, and I haven't been trained in public speaking, sometimes I do things a little backwards, so I'm going to start with telling you what missional communities are not. Okay? Missional communities are not a coffee clutch. They're not where we get together at 9 o'clock in the morning and discuss world events over a cup of coffee or something like that. It's not that. It's not a dedicated small group. Almost by definition, small groups are a finite, defined amount of people. And they meet from now all the way to when they don't meet anymore. And that's pretty much it. So they're not that. It's also, missional communities are not all intense Bible studies. They're not intended to be that way. Certainly we use scripture, but they're not intended to be an intense Bible study. What it's really not, and Pastor Scott really has to hammer this one into my head when it was going, it's not a program. Missional communities at Lutheran Memorial Church are not programs. Programs have an end date. Missional communities don't have end dates. And it's also, Sandy hears me grouse about this from time to time, it's also not an opportunity just to get together and explore bunny trails. Whatever happens to be on our mind at the time. It's not an opportunity to do that, okay? So, those are some of the things missional communities are not. What they are, they're a time for others to share and for us to learn from others, from their experience, what's worked well for them, what hasn't worked well for them in their discipling and their witnessing. It's a time for encouragement of others. It's a time to grow our confidence in speaking about Jesus and about prayer and about the gospel. I think a lot of us have that burning desire inside in our hearts and all that. We don't have the confidence to say it. We don't have the confidence to get out there and talk to somebody conversationally about it. It's an opportunity for some or all to grow confident enough to begin their own missional community. And we'll talk about that in just a second. It's a time for all of us to help each other to change our lifestyle. And I know we get uncomfortable when we hear that term, that lifestyle change. But this truly is a lifestyle change. A time to help us change our lifestyle to match Jesus. And I'm not casting stones here at the church. This is just the way that the church has been my entire time of growing up. And I guess I didn't really realize it until we got into this joining Jesus on his mission thing. But if I look back over the 60 plus years that I realized that I was going to church, the church has always been Tony-centered. It's always been, I'm going to go, I'm going to see what I can do for myself to make me a better person, and then I can walk out, and then that can be it. That's a nice byproduct. It's a wonderful byproduct. But that's not what we're called to do. We're called to share the gospel. We're called to go out the front doors, share the gospel, share the ministry, share the good news of Jesus Christ and what he's done in our life, which we can't do if we haven't invited him into our life. We can say the words, we can have the vocabulary of being a Christian, but until we have that intimate relationship with Christ, we really can't share Christ with others. I think two of the most important things coming out of missional communities is that those participating in them, and I know we've got some here that participate already, some sitting, and I don't know how many are out there in the internet, but I know that we have some sitting in this room that participate in missional communities already, but it gives them much more confidence in themselves and the change in their lifestyles, and that the missional communities replicate themselves. We're not going to look for the missional communities to replicate themselves so that we have bigger numbers, although that's kind of cool. That's not the goal of replicating. It is that, and I'm sure there's a big term for this, but it's that replication, that exponential increase of effect. If I can disciple 2, and those 2 can disciple 4, and those 4 can disciple 16, we're having a big ripple effect here. That's why we want missional communities to grow, not necessarily in the number in each missional community, but in the number of missional communities. Excuse me. It has been said that missional communities are a gathering of brothers and sisters in Christ. They're not necessarily intended for non-believers, but non-believers are not excluded either. We got a neighbor, and we've talked a couple of times, not really sure where that person is as far as his walk with Christ. But if he wants to come in on us on Monday night at 6 o'clock at the Brace household, that's a done deal. Missional communities are seeking God's kingdom and growing together through Bible study, so we do go into the scripture, relating experiences. So we'll talk about what happened the last week, what we experienced, and by sharing observations of both what I experienced, what God shared with me, what others see in what I've done. And we help each other live out our calling as children of God and all that that entails. Okay? We can't just sit back and go, I'm a child of God, thank you very much. Now I just have to wait to cross the big river and we're all done. Okay? There's responsibilities he gives to us because we are children of God. Because we are God's children. We have things that we're supposed to do, and he's very explicit in this, as you've heard me say time and again in the men's group, this outdated, irrelevant, dusty old book. Okay? He gives us very specific charges of what to do with that. And by joining Jesus on his mission as part of our everyday lives, sharing the good news with others around us, that's our charge, that's our mission. So during our gatherings, and this is for those out there on the web that maybe haven't experienced this, for those in here that maybe haven't experienced this, during our gatherings, we ask questions of each other, and they're guided by the 5 questions that we were introduced to a couple years ago in joining Jesus on his mission. We reflect on God's word and learn how to imitate Jesus' discipling style in the Gospels. We identify actions that we can take for the coming week or for the coming day or the coming hour, if it's like me, or the coming 30 minutes, because the whole thing falls off my head very quickly. And we also pray for each other at the very end. So, any questions? There's no commercial breaks. All right? So a missional community gathering might look something like this.
We begin by catching up with each other, just briefly sharing what's been happening in our lives. And are we going to do that now? We're going to do that now.
This is interactive, okay? This is no longer a presentation. This is interactive. Yep.
Well, I'm gonna share one thing that happened last night. I was putting out the flowers, and I was kind of down in the entrance waiting, and Leo would know the woman's name, the woman that we helped move. By the way.
Gosh, I should. I'm gonna take the 5th on that.
Okay, but anyway, there were a number of members that helped move things from the storage unit to a new house she was renting on Cascade.
Yeah.
And he was waiting for me because I take long and I putz, okay? So that, you gotta add that in there. If we'd been gone, this wouldn't happen. So, okay, that's the rest of it, okay.
And she kind of walked by and it's kind of stood there, so I went outside and she was asking whether we were gonna have our trunk or treat this year, and I said, no, we're gonna postpone it till next year. And I asked, how's the house going and so forth, and the landlord put in new carpets, so she was excited about that. I think she has a college-age son and then 2 younger middle school, and one of them was with her, and said, but I'm still looking for a bed frame and a dresser. And then the young man said, yeah, I'm sleeping on the couch and my brother's sleeping in the chair. So I don't have a bed frame or we don't have one, or a dresser, but it just seemed like that was, let's see, time to start at least asking around if anybody in the church might be able to help them out with that. So it seemed like an opportunity that God presented in my life. That's kind of the types of things we talk about in our mission community.
And this is not quite representative because the catching up with each other kind of happens as we're all gathering together and saying hi and how are you and what's new, and things like that. So this isn't totally representative of that, but you get the idea, I think. So one of the things that a scripture that we found that we like, that I really think speaks to the missional communities, is from Hebrews 10. It says, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching." And so I think that our meeting together does spur one another on, and it's a good thing, and we're told in Hebrews that we should keep doing that, so we will keep doing that. But after we catch up with each other, as we gather together, we would open with prayer, and we will do that now. Pray with me, please. Lord, bless this time together as we gather in your name. We pray that with each of our gatherings we gain more confidence to bring what we are discussing in here to out there in our neighborhoods and in our community. Open our eyes to see what you are at work, where you are at work. Open our hearts to trust you and step into this new path that you are guiding us on, knowing that we aren't doing this alone. You are always by our side and provide this group to support us in our journey. We pray these things in your name. Amen. So then we would move on to the 5 good questions that have been given to us through Pastor Finke. I used to say, has anyone seen God at work this week? But the actual question is, how have you seen God at work? Because we all have seen God at work. We're just not used to, we're not accustomed to
Watching for it.
and paying attention to it and acknowledging that that's God at work. So, how have you seen God at work?
It was maybe 2 weeks ago now, I made a big batch of salsa and canned it. And then the kids helped me drop some off at different neighbors' houses, and our neighbor right next door to us, I'm fairly certain that they're Mormon. I had dropped off a jar of salsa for her, and she'd had my phone number because at the beginning of COVID I dropped off cards saying, if you need anything, here's how to get a hold of us, we can help you out. And she had texted me, thank you for the salsa, and I knew I hadn't seen her for a while, and so I said, I hope everybody's healthy. And then she said that she'd been battling cancer, so it kind of opened up this avenue to have a discussion, which was a good thing.
Cool.
I had a prayer sent to me by someone this week, and it was very timely. It just says, Jesus, help me to see the scars in my mind, help me to make the choice, moment by moment, to stop ruminating on negative, hurtful, familiar lies. Help me to choose to take a new, truthful path in my thoughts, and then help me to take your path again and again.
And it was a real coincidence that it came at a timely time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To illustrate what Sandy was saying about maybe we don't acknowledge or recognize God at work, there was a day there were several days, there were many days last week that I actually saw the sunrise. And that's God at work. But we don't give him credit for that. But that's God at work.
Everyday miracles, huh?
Everyday miracle. I think one of the things that, part of this, or in addition to the question is, how is Jesus messing with you? On Tuesday, I think it was, when we got that ridiculous snowfall that we had here in October, and all that went on, my anxiety level went up very high because there were all sorts of things that I hadn't gotten done yet outside. And it was going to be bad, and I was going to have snow mold next spring because the grass was all of this stuff. And I went back in my mind to the power to change and to the scripture where he says in Psalm 46, be still and know that I'm God. So where he talked to me there, I think was, he's got this. This wasn't a surprise to him, the snow, you know, the snow. If I just go with his calendar, although if he was to ask for advice a little more often, I think I might appreciate that.
But despite all that, it was still beautiful. The snow was still beautiful.
It was.
And-
The kids were so happy.
Yes.
Picked Tenley up from school that day, and that really put it in perspective. I mean, those kids were just jumping. She got home, she goes, Minka, can we play in the snow? And I was like, okay. So Papa got us, you know, I was like, okay, we have to have joy. We can't be, you know, sticks in the mud, so we play in the snow.
I feel like I saw God at work in that storm too, because I had a lot of driving to drive to Stillwater to get the kids, and
Oh.
I had my little niece in the car too, so I had a car full of kids, and those roads were not good. Those roads were
Oh my
awful.
God.
And there were so many times that I felt like, I'm sliding, I'm gonna go in the ditch, and all of a sudden it was like God picked up my car and put me back on the road. Like I shouldn't have made that without going in the ditch. And he had his hand on me.
Isn't there a song called Jesus Take the Wheel?
Yeah, yeah, it was like that.
I was thinking of that.
So Tony already touched on it, but another one of the good questions is, how has Jesus been messing with you?
I went to the women's journey team on Tuesday morning, and I thought that study was so awesome. So thank you, Sandy, for getting that going again. But there was a moment about talking about peace and how the sandals of peace had like cleats, like metal nails that went through to hold you firm, even in the middle of craziness going on. And they had like trust in the word and thankfulness equals peace. And I thought that was really interesting because I never really thought of thankfulness being an element of finding peace. So that's something we could all do, for sure.
Well, I don't know if I'm supposed to, but I think I volunteered 4 years ago to help plan our 50-year high school class reunion, which will be next year. It wasn't this year. And so last night I had this dream about this room full of my my former classmates, and I can't say who was there, but I think it was just saying, I did do one thing. I did make arrangements for a location to have it, and in other years we've done it in July because where we grew up they have their like summer celebration in about the third week in July. I'm thinking more like end of August, early September, because all people should be or are close to retirement, so it shouldn't be dependent on the school year or anything like that. And it's 11 months out, but who knows? So at least I think I need to be contacting a few people other people to help with that planning. So I guess that's what he was reminding me.
One of the things where Jesus certainly messed with me was a couple of weeks ago, Pastor Scott's sermon with the stones. Remember with the stones, where he dropped the stone and all that? Because you're going to start chunking up somebody that sinned and all that. And that's a pretty good idea. You know, just, maybe I need to drop them. And then more looking at myself. And as Sandy can attest to, it's pretty easy for me to get pretty down on myself. And for one thing, it's a target-rich environment to start with. There's a lot of things to get down about in the first place. But during this whole time, as I was thinking about Pastor Scott's sermon, it came to me that I can see very easily so many of my sins and faults in others. I can sure point those babies out just in a big way, without actually admitting it. So that brought me kind of down, but it brought others down. And then during devotion, I think the next day, he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, you know, I don't love anybody any more than I love you. And he said, but I also don't love anybody any less than I love you. And that, along with that being still, which is very hard to do, he's been messing with me on that, and that's brought some peace. I'm not sure if Sandy would agree with that, but it has brought some peace, at least inner peace. I'll tell you one other thing when I saw God at work today. Did you see those 6 kids
Oh my gosh.
up on that screen?
Yeah.
Those 6 kids just standing up there talking about the love of Jesus in their life. Holy smokes. You know, that's not cool for kids to do right now, you know? For the young adults, that's not, I don't think would be classified as being cool. That got out that they actually did that.
I have shared this in some group, I don't remember which one, so some of you may have heard this, but maybe not. Our daughter Kristen has some companions who are college students that bless her richly by getting her away from mom and dad every now and again and spending girl time instead of mom. Anyway, one of her companions named Sarah comes for the college Bible study with Pastor Scott, and she didn't actually share this with us, but he did. Pastor Scott did. Her God sighting a couple weeks ago was having been out and about with Kristen, and Kristen likes to bring a CD to play in the car while they're driving around. And at the end of their outing, the CD would not come out of the CD player in her car. No way, nothing would work. Everything she tried, nothing worked. So Kristen prayed. And the CD came out. And that was her God sighting. Pretty sweet.
That's awesome.
Another one of the 5 good questions is what has God been teaching you in His Word?
I would say from the readings from today in 2 Timothy, let's see here. For the time is coming when people will not endure sound teaching, but have itching ears. They will accumulate for themselves teachers to suit their own passions, and will turn away from listening to the truth and wander off into myths. As for you, be sober-minded, enduring suffering, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. And then this part with verse 6, for I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time for my departure has come. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. Those 6 and 7, those verses always kind of make me feel all teary, you know, like I want to be one of those that can say that at the end, you know.
Yeah.
That's quite a charge He gave to Timothy, and I believe it's the same for all of us. That's quite a charge, and he starts out saying, in the presence of God and Jesus Christ, I give you this charge.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I just think that part, the beginning of what I read, I mean, that exemplifies what's going on today, you know? And I'm sure it exemplified what was going on then, too. That the human condition hasn't changed. Even though we like to think that the Bible's an outdated book and that, you know.
Yeah. Can somebody explain to me what he means by in season and out of season? I mean, I don't think we're talking about winter, spring, summer, or fall here.
Which verse is that, Tony?
2.
Yeah. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. And then I like this one, reprove, rebuke. I didn't like that exhort part. That reprieve and rebuke. I'm pretty good at that, you know, for other people. I'm pretty good at that, especially our kids.
Do you think he means all time? In season, out of season, all the time?
when you feel like it and when you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that one. When it's convenient, when it's not convenient,
Right.
Not just on the Sabbath.
not just on the Sabbath. Not for the 1 hour
Yeah.
that we're in here. Okay.
I'm on the advisory committee for the community ed here in town, and we had our Zoom meeting this last week. And it's been really tough on them trying to come up with courses. You know, we can't meet anymore and face to face, so it's all Zoom, you know, or some type of virtual learning. So it's been really hard, and one of the things that Monique, she's the director, asked us to think about before we came to our meeting was how are we dealing with mental health during this time for ourselves. And the first thing I thought of was, and this is how I feel, is that God's in control. So even though everything looks horrible, I could tell myself, I can't do anything about it. So just, it's gonna be okay. He's got this. But you know, I know these people on my committee, but we're not real close. And sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing how they feel about things. So I thought about it, and so we start talking, and one's exercise, and somebody's visiting family and stuff. So then I felt, well, like it's my turn, I have to say something. So I said, what gives me peace is knowing that God's in control and it's not me. And I was surprised the number went, yeah, you know. So, but it was hard to say that, you know, when I didn't know them. It's easy when you're with a group of believers, you know, then it's easy to say.
That's an excellent segue into the fifth question, which is what kind of conversations have you been having with others? Not with yourself, with others.
I feel like I had a bit of a fail yesterday because we we had kids over to spend the night, kids that don't usually go to church and stuff, and I always think before we have kids over that are in that position, like this is really my opportunity to show them Jesus, you know? And I was extremely impatient with those boys running all over my house and making mayhem. I really was. But I'm like, you need to go downstairs and find something to do away from me. So I didn't do the best job of that yesterday.
I'm gonna blow up.
That's okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty normal.
That's okay. I'll tell you a story about that.
Yeah?
My mom was home when I was growing up, so our house was where everybody kind of hung out, and my mom was telling me as an adult that there was one time when I had some friends over and we were playing kind of loud, and she felt like she was just being a shrew, that you know she was always constantly yelling and
She was.
no, she wasn't.
I didn't know her not to yell. No.
One of the times she was coming down to discipline or whatever, yell or correct or whatever, she heard one of my friends saying, I just love coming to your house. Your mom is so much fun. and here she thought she was just being horrible, but my friends didn't think so. She was there, you know, she was just there.
There's that, huh?
Guessing you didn't hear that.
She might not have heard it, they
Yeah.
might not have said it, but
Yeah.
so there's the encouragement.
Thank you, Sandy.
There's one gentleman I have conversations with every week about this idea of control. He's very scared from the virus, and his workload is overwhelming, and he's trying to keep up, and he's worried about losing customers, and some of it's happening. And every time I just try to end our conversation with, you know, you just work as hard as you can, and then you let the rest go and let God be in control of that. I don't know if it's doing any good because he continues to have panic attacks, and he, you know, sleeps in his truck because he doesn't want to catch the virus. And It's,
Wow.
so.
Mm.
I was glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I think that can be said over and over again.
He sleeps in his truck at night. Oh. He's gonna get run down and,
His wife works in healthcare, so he's worried about
oh, about being
her brain,
exposed.
yeah.
Oh.
You know, you should be cautious, you know, I'm not saying that's not a good thing, but yeah, some people, I have a friend too who, we used to go to the Y, there was a group of us, and we go to the Y 3 days a week and swim. Well, we haven't done that now all summer, but we still get together on Zoom once a week. We were doing it 3 days, and I'm like, we don't have enough going on to talk every other day, you know? So, we're down to one now, but she won't get her hair cut. She has her groceries delivered. The only outing is they go they ride their bikes. But she hasn't seen any of her children or family. And it's like, you know, I feel for her because I know she's miserable.
Part of that question, an elongated part of that question is, what conversations have you had recently with pre-Christians? And our missional community thought that was a little judgmental, and so we kind of took the pre-Christian part off, but it did raise the question that we talked about for a long time: how would you know? And we're not necessarily talking about other people, because I posed the question to him. I said, would they know that you're a Christian by what you do or by what you say? And Cheryl, like you said earlier, it's kind of easy to be Christian, you know, when you're sitting in the fellowship hall at church and you can say all the things and so forth like that. But we had, it was Monday night at Missional Community, wasn't it, honey, that we came up with, right now we're in John, and we're at, coming up to the crucifixion, and he's being taken to Caiaphas and Annas and all that. And the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, was allowed into the courtyard. And the other disciple went out and talked to the lady, and they let the gate guard, and they let Peter in. And so we're talking about this other disciple, which tradition says is John, who wrote the fourth gospel, is what we accept. And we pose the question to each other: how can you be a disciple of Jesus and be entertained by people like the high priest? And Sandy, I think you honey, I think you're the one that brought up, like, especially when we were much younger, we can be one way at a certain time, but then when we're around a different group of people, we're kind of different at that. Really irritates me.
Not in other people, in yourself.
No, just in myself. There's enough here to go around for me. Yeah.
The last of the 5 questions is, what good can you do around here? And, you know, I think the purpose of some of these questions is to get us thinking about being intentional with our Christianity, with our discipleship, and to think intentionally, what good can I do around here? And what can we take with us from this, from God's word, from our gathering, our sharing with others? What can we take with us out the front door to show to others, to show Jesus to others?
I like that thing that Monica said about 2 Timothy 4, 6, 7, and 8. You know, I fought the good fight. I ran the race. I finished, and all that. I want to be able to say that when I cross the river. And then it ties in with, if I was on trial to be a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict me? So that's what I'm taking out the front door this week.
In his Paul's confidence that he will receive the prize, that he he was confident that he did and that there will be a prize.
You know, it's interesting when Hannes was talking, you know, he's been raised in a Christian family with a lot of support, you know, his whole life, and he's quite confident about everything. You know, I've been very fortunate in that way as well. You know what I mean? I've raised in a Christian family to start, in a youth group when I was a kid. We spent a lot of time together. I've always had people. And it's a lot different for a lot of other folks. You know, I was just talking to a guy who, he works for the federal government and he gets sent all over the world doing different things. And he's telling me stories about what happened in Saudi Arabia, what happened in Turkey. He says you stay in Istanbul, pretty good university city, you know, they get people from all over. He said you go 30 miles out, a little different deal, you're an infidel. And I mean, it's hard to believe what some of these people have to live while they'll spend a 6 or 9 month stint in a foreign country. You know what I mean? You're basically locked up in your house or your workplace. Because
you're not free, huh?
you're really a different person. You know what I mean? So when you hear them talk about racism, you know what I mean? This is, you know, over religion. Some parts of the world are really tragic right now. I mean, maybe there's many parts. I mean, I'm not a world traveler much, but boy, it's like you kind of have to put your Christianity on pause and listen to Christian radio. I mean, a lot of times when he went, it was before there was anything much with the internet. You know, I'm sure it was dial-up and pretty slow, so you couldn't get anything. So, you know, it's read your Bible and that's it.
I
But
don't-
this was more just a Christian talk with a guy I barely know, telling me, you know, these were some interesting parts of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's tough being a Christian. You know, and I look at my life and I've been blessed. I mean, nobody's told me I can't go to church this week. Sometimes I have to do call, but, you know, other than that, you know what I mean? I get to go whenever I want to. I really have no excuse for any bad behaviors or not attending or.
Well, we take that religious freedom for granted, you know? We've just always had it.
I don't think we know anywhere near what some experience in other places.
So again, back to the Saudi Arabia, some of his friends, they came to visit, you know, it's their family. And so here's an unmarried guy with a girl walking, they're just gonna walk downtown. They got picked up, they didn't have their identification on them in Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
He got put in jail, she got put in jail, kicked out of the country, they're unmarried. You know, and I guess that doesn't happen in Saudi Arabia, you have to have a father or a brother or some kind of family member, you know, for an unmarried female to go out, and of course, he's guilty of adultery, cause he's with this unmarried
Just because he's
female. I
walking.
mean,
Wow.
they had no idea about what the rule systems were, and man, it caused a lot of problems. He got a number of lashes in jail, and then eventually got kicked out of the country about 6 months later. And it's like, I mean,
Wow.
it's holy mackerel.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't all that long ago.
I was gonna say, one of the things we do in our missional community is, with this last question, we turned it a little bit into what are you gonna take with you out this week, but with that, then we have some accountability, so we'll write down, so we follow up with each other the next week just to see how that went, you know, and it helps, kinda keep it in the forethought of your mind to do that.
Cause you're gonna get asked about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a test.
Yeah.
Brian's been trying to do that with us, and we're horrible.
So then we would ask, how can we help each other in prayer? And the intention with that is, how can we help each other in prayer in our discipling? Right?
Yeah, this isn't where you end up the missional community with praying for my aunt's bunion's gonna be removed, you know, and the dog ran away, and so we need to find the dog and that kind of, it's not for them, it's, we pray for each of us that we would grow stronger in Christ in our intimate relationship with Him and our witnessing for Him.
And with the hope that with the plan to be praying for each other all week, in that way. So, we should probably close in prayer. You do it.
So let's pray. Jesus, open our eyes to recognize the people and places where the gospel is absent. Give us a mission mindset and a humbler spirit as we study the Word and enter into our neighborhoods. By the power of the Holy Spirit, help us to be changed by you and seek ways each day to join you on your mission. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sandy.